Bow with me, please. Our gracious Heavenly Father, thank you again that we come together in your service and do your bidding for the Cherokee people. Would you bless each and every one here, bless the administration and the people of the Cherokee Nation, look over our troops overseas, and give each and every one safe passage as they travel from this meeting to the next and home after it's over. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Roll call.
Meredith Riley.
Here.
Bill Angley.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Julia Coates. Here. Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishenhoff.
Here.
Adele Fulbright. Here. Don Gargan. Chuck Boston Jr. Tanya Gloria Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Supp. David Thornton. Kara Callan Watts.
Honey.
We do have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Their purpose is to discuss and possible action on amendments to the election code. In your book are some proposed amendments that Todd submitted to Shelley. And then there are, where did these come from, Shelley?
They were handed to me today
By?
Todd's secretary.
And these are not in your books that are before you. There's about 4 or 5 of them that Todd brought over today. So since you probably had time to look at those that are in your book, we will start with those first. And the first one is kind of not numerically in order, but Section 52, electioneering and obstructing voters. Mr. Baker.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I got an email just a few minutes ago from Chuck Jr. And although he's not opposed to discussing and talking about these, he did ask if maybe we wouldn't table those until he could actually be here. And this is one that he had brought forward as far as the non-interference of campaigners and poll workers and being able to contact. So
These that are in the book. Okay, so you want to table those?
yeah, if that would be all right with the body for Chuck's benefit, I would leave the table that to come back to later.
Do I have a second? Second. Moved and second to table these proposed amendments that are in the book so that Mr. Hoskin can be here to discuss them. I think most of these came from him. So we will start with these that Todd did. Sorry?
Aye.
Oh. All in favor of tabling, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. I'm sorry. I'm weed eating this morning. Okay, Section 21, voting by districts. 21C3, re-registration for purposes of changing district and or precinct. We're going to have a few moments to look over this first page before we discuss it. Yes.
And these that were just handed out are Tom's recommendations?
She just got those this afternoon. Mr. Baker?
Now, I can only assume that you would physically have to move into another district to just register in another district.
I think so.
I mean, surely we're not going to every 2 years let folks just back and forth across the lines and this, that, and the other.
Do you have any?
Well, just for comment right now, and maybe other folks have, some thoughts on it. I just don't want to leave it so open-ended that it leads them to believe that they can just pick a district.
Anybody have any comment? Mr. Buzzard?
Well, yeah, I just see what Mr. Baker's talking about, because the first sentence or the second one says a registered record of vote who has moved to a new district or who wishes to change precincts And it just kind of leaves it
or
open.
who wishes to change.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you know,
exactly, yeah.
I mean, that
I mean, it
almost,
says he can, or if you wish to change, you can, and I guess if you don't want to, you don't have to. That's how I would read it. And may register, may re-register.
Anything further?
That's all the comment I've got.
Dr. Cobb?
I would kind of agree with the ambiguity of this, but I also wanted to bring this up because I know Councilor Hoskin has voiced some of the concerns I have. And I don't know if this is the right time or place, but if it is, I want to bring it up. On this re-registering, there are some of us that live in counties, in districts that border at large, and I don't have a problem telling you that the process for those people deciding whether they wanted to stay at large or vote in a district was extremely rushed. It was haphazard, the language was terrible, and most of our constituents were confused. An example is Osage County and Coffeyville. I know we had a lot of people in Osage County that didn't understand the deadline, they didn't understand the language, they missed the deadline, and they were permanently put at large. I know Councilor Hoskin had expressed that there were some people in Coffeyville that the same thing happened to them, that they had always voted at the South Coffeyville polling place. So I don't know if this is the place to address that, but I had brought that up before. But at some point, I want that addressed because I mean it was done very, very poorly.
Did you want to add an item to this 21C, like?
I would, not being an attorney. No, you cannot. I didn't know if I could. You cannot. Can I ask when is the
Mr.
proper
Baker?
time to address
Do you
that?
have a comment in regard to what?
I'll defer to Councilor Baker.
It is by constitution, the election of the district is by the Constitution. There would have to be an amendment to the Constitution to allow us to go back to that. And these amendments are to enact and not to the Constitution. And I'm not opposed to such an amendment to
We
the
have to do it a
Constitution,
different way.
but it has to be as an amendment to the Constitution, and then it has to be voted on by the people to change it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Garvin?
Is this going to be effective in the future? It's not concerning the 15 districts.
That's right.
That's going to be automatic, isn't it?
No, I think it goes into effect the
I
next
think
term.
Each person will have to re-register. Right now, I'm in District 4, and pretty soon I'll be in District 3, so I'll have to change. Each one in here will have to change.
A new district number, you're saying?
Bill John won't. I guess he's still one.
Mr. Baker, did you have a comment?
well, when the election commission was here, they indicated that they were just going to geodata those that they could and just send out letters and saying you are now District 2 instead of District 1 by where they live. And then, but to follow that, I mean, if everybody's going to re-register, maybe there's no problem. But I don't think that's what they're saying. They're saying that they're going to decide that, you know, that they know that this person lives in Muskogee, so they're just going to tell them that's where you vote, period. Muskogee County or within your district. And they're going to pick everybody west of Main Street and say, you know, you're in District 2 and everybody east District 1, but not make them re-register. But what's bothering me with this, it says, or if they want to change, they can. And I mean, either they are or they aren't. You just can't decide that you want to be District 1 for this election and District 2 for the next one just because you live in Cherokee County.
Mr. Garvin,
Okay,
you
what
said-
about the ones that live in Oklahoma City that were registered in District 4?
That's already,
Where are they going to go?
if they voted in the last election for District 4, they can stay there. But they'll get a letter from the election commission saying that you're now in District whatever yours is. But if they fail to sign up to vote in Muskogee for the last election, they're forever gone. They default to Jack and Judy. Forever, except the 18-year-olds, it's their first election. That class still can choose to vote within the district. And that'll be from now on, for that one election. So
Second floor, Mr. Garvin.
I was thinking about Wagner people, they want to change. So will they have an opportunity to change?
as I understand, the election commission's just going to say, if you live in Wagner, we're going to appoint you where you're going to vote, period.
That's Meredith's district, I think.
Okay, and they'll just, if they're in Wagner, they'll just say that you are now District
12, I think.
12, she thinks. And that's, isn't that what they said? And they're just going to appoint folks.
They don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice other than if they say that you're in District 2 and they want to contest it and come out here and say, no, I live across the road, you made a mistake, then I think they can get put in the right district.
No, they're really at-large people I'm thinking about anyway.
Yeah, the at-large is pretty much, like Jack said, it's constitutionally already a done deal. There's nothing they can do from this point
They're
forward.
already committed for District 4, they gotta stay there.
They don't have to. They can always decide to go at large. And if District 4 is cut up, they might be District 12 now. Because you don't have all of District 4 anymore. So if they have a Wagner address, they will automatically become District 4. If they're in Wagner. Well, if they're within the Cherokee Nation of Wagner. If they're outside, then I assume that's a tough question. Because did they choose Wagner as their home, or did they choose Muskogee as their home?
They're gonna have three choices, either Meredith, myself, or Jack, really.
Yeah.
You can have them.
But that would be a tough one. Where they would go if they chose District 4 from at large, and District 4, and they live, in Wagner proper, that would be a tough one. Do they want to vote with all the folks in Wagner County, or do they want to vote with Muskogee County?
They probably wanna go with Meredith, because
Let's see. All, Mr. Garvin?
yes, thank you.
Because there'd be folks in Tulsa that chose District 1,
Same thing, Tulsa.
but they won't necessarily, go with Tulsa.
All the at-large people, so they,
Ms. Swat?
Thank you. I would like to propose the following amendment, because we've not passed a motion, with a motion to pass this amendment. But it would be to strike on the 21C3, it reads now, a resident registered voter who has moved to a new district, then strike, or who wishes to change precinct. Strike that. Then, and keep this where it's stricken from the legislation, and then change the next word may to shall re-register. And I'd like to make that a motion to pass that amendment with those changes.
Second.
Okay, Kara, let me make sure I'm clear. A resident registered voter who has moved to a new district, then we strike the or who wishes to change precinct, correct?
Yes.
Strike that, and then we say shall, and then everything else remains the same.
Yes.
Did she have a second?
Dr. Cobb?
That was
Do you also need to strike the and/or precinct on or before? See where you change may to shall, keep going down that sentence and it says and/or precinct, because you got rid of precinct on the previous.
It would still be it could be, there's going to be multiple precincts within a district, so that would be the same. You would keep it.
Okay.
Thank you for asking though, because we need to ask those questions now.
Would you accept a friendly amendment that on the third line after new district, add the words in which they live?
Or re-register for a new district
In which they
in which
live.
they live?
In other words, they can't just choose, they have to live there to register there.
I think it would be in which they reside. Is that
Reside,
correct? All the
okay.
lawyers in the room? Yes.
You accept
And-
that?
And I accept another friendly amendment that was whispered down here. And this is English, for the new district instead of A.
Shall re-register for the new district.
In which they reside.
Okay. Any other friendly amendments, Mr. Baker?
Well, I don't have a friendly amendment here, but there is a problem with this, the way it is. It doesn't give any consideration to people who live within the Cherokee Nation that move out of the nation and become non-residents. So at that point, then, because it doesn't address non-residents at all. But someone can move out of the Cherokee Nation, move from Telequad, Oklahoma City, and then it doesn't give them any option of re-registering.
Madam
Got an
Speaker?
answer to your question?
Ms. Calwatch, you're speaking to that?
Yes, I'm speaking directly to Councilman Baker's concern. I think we could add it to the legislation, but I don't know that we have to, because it's still calling for them to say we have a new residence, and then they would have to declare per the Constitution that they want to continue to stay in that district, but they would still have to change their address.
Excuse me for interrupting you,
No,
but
please.
on the at-large that Jack was addressing, under the proposed amendments that are in the book, 21C1, is that the one you're talking about? It addresses at-large registered voters. Does that answer your question, Jack?
Which,
The one that's in the book?
The second
that we
one.
tabled? 21C1.
no, because it still doesn't address for people moving out of the Cherokee Nation.
Moving from a resident to an at-large resident?
Yes.
Okay.
Perhaps if we struck resident and have a registered voter who has moved to a new district, or at large to a new district, or out of the Cherokee Nation, shall re-register for the new district in which they reside.
But they don't have to, the Constitution doesn't force them.
Now, are you proposing a friendly amendment to what she's talking about?
Yes, to strike.
Okay.
Don't think it would be to strike resident and have a registered voter who's moved to a new district.
Okay, read it.
A registered voter who has moved to a new district
So we strike
Strike
resident.
shall re-register for the new district in which they reside.
Mm-hmm. Just strike resident.
But that still is calling at large a district, when at large technically is not a district.
It's not? What are you?
Well, although I consider it a district, but,
Big district.
If it's not, what is it?
okay. Well, it's not one of the 15 districts, I should say.
Ms. Calwatch,
Yeah, I think to deal with what he's saying, we would say shall register, strike all that from 4 to precinct, it's be shall register on or before but not after the last business days of March of the election year. Well, then it still goes on to talk about district and or precinct, so.
Jack, why would the way you proposed striking resident, why was that, does that not satisfy you?
Actually, I think it does. But it may create a problem, I don't know. We could let Mr. Hembrook look at that and see.
Mr. Garvin, would you want to speak to this?
Not to that, but I have a question. Are we talking about the 9 districts or the 15 districts?
We're talking about the proposed new district.
It doesn't say that.
Yeah, but it could go to court, you know.
It looks like you're talking about the old 9 districts.
Okay, so Anyone else with a friendly amendment to Ms. Calwatt's proposal and Jack's and Mr. Baker? Anyone else? Mr. Baker?
Not to belabor this and all, but I'm going to move to table it until Todd's got a chance to look over it, and we'll bring it up to the very next, first thing, the next meeting. Move to table.
Move to table section 3
As amended.
as amended. Do you have a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Item 4 would go right along with it, I guess. But it says that they failed to change their voting district. Let's figure out what that is first. Anyone have any comments on 21C4? No comments, and we move on to 31A, general qualifications. New candidates desire to run for elective office. The principal chief, deputy chief, council members shall meet the following general eligibility requirements consistent with the Constitution. And shall be a citizen of the Cherokee Nation in accordance with Article 4, and shall be a member by blood of the Cherokee Nation. Any comment? Mr. Baker?
It appears to me this is strictly a housekeeping to change the articles to correspond with the new Constitution.
They have been changed, are those not correct?
Pardon?
They have been changed, are those not correct?
No, this will change them to correspond with the new Constitution.
The way it is now.
Right.
Correct.
The changes are.
I think that's the way.
Right, so I move first.
Good question.
Second.
Any discussion? Dr. Cobb and then Mr. Garvin.
I defer to Mr. Garvin.
Okay?
I just want to ask a question, can a councilperson run for chief?
Okay.
Is your question, can a sitting council, is that the question?
Well, anybody on the council?
Sure.
I guess, I don't know.
Why would you think it doesn't, they wouldn't be able to?
Employees can't run, I didn't know about council people.
Well, they
You're not employees.
I mean, if you follow that logic, the chief couldn't rerun without resigning.
I thought the chief and deputy chief were exceptions.
Well, actually, they're more employees than we are. We're a special class, more special than them.
Maybe they work.
Well, I mean, they get the Social Security, they get everything that a regular full-time employee gets.
So our six-year people could run then.
I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure they could.
We can find out. Okay. We didn't vote on this, did we? No. Any other comments, questions on 31A? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is section 33B, residents. Dr. Cobb?
Can some of my attorney friends give me a strict definition of what a bona fide permanent residence is?
See, that's one that's been proven. Ms. Gloria Jordan, what would you consider bona fide?
Well, it had at least 2 cases that I know of that went to the election board. And it went to, is this your primary residence? Is this where you intend to return to and lay your head at night? I know the last one that I attended was
Gerald Moss.
yes.
In the RV.
In the RV case. And it was whether did you intend to return there and lay your head at night? That was and they ruled in his favor that yes, although it looked temporary in nature, it was permanent in nature to him.
Well, and I'm sorry, do I still have the floor? And that's my question. that, if you could, if it's on wheels, I don't know how else to put it, if it's on wheels and you could get up in a matter of 10 minutes and move your residence, is that considered permanent? I mean, I guess that's my question.
Are you speaking to that?
That's good.
Okay.
It's really whitewashed in this deal, because it says here, and I don't know where this one came from, but bona fide permanent residence in the districts in which he or she is a candidate immediately preceding the day of the general primary election.
That was my next comment.
I mean, what's the deal? I mean, you have to not even, I mean, theoretically, I could drive my motorhome to any district I wanted, and as long as I paid a month's rent at a space, I could call that a permanent residence. The tribunal's already ruled that a motorhome can be a permanent residence, and it is for many Americans right now. And fact is, I guess, if that was arguable, I lived for 6 months in my motorhome while I was remodeling the house, and but it didn't keep me from working my district every day. And but I've never any place seen where the day before the election is the day that you decide you're going to be a resident of the district. And there's something sadly wrong with this particular amendment.
You should have the floor, Mr. Dr. Collins.
And that was my point. It's not necessarily getting into motorhomes and mobile homes and that. It's my next comment was the day before the election. Well, that really leaves it wide open to. There's some. I got some issues with this whole paragraph. I'm finished. Thank you.
Mr. Baker,
I want to listen a while.
Okay. Jack Baker.
Yes. Actually, this is the language that is in the current act. That isn't changed. The only thing that's changed is the last sentence that's underlined. Provided this section does not apply to at-large district candidates. The rest of it is exactly what's been in effect for some time.
No.
Yes. Look at
The Constitution speaks to a longer period than this.
So then it has to be changed to. It should be changed to.
I make a motion that we make this consistent with the Constitution.
Moved and second. Now, any further discussion, Ms. Coates?
Well, actually, if you go to Section 34 in the Legislative Act, that is consistent with the Constitution, I believe, because to be a candidate, it says in Section 34, verification of residency has to be for a previous period of 270 days, right? So even in this Act, it stipulates a longer period of time in order to even be a candidate. I wouldn't read it as being inconsistent. I'd read it as being redundant, because obviously if you have to be there 270 days in advance of it, then you would presumably be there one day in advance of it as well, right? And
In that case, I move to strike Section 33D.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Jordan?
Well, don't you want them to be a resident the whole time they represent the district? And I think that's what this goes to, is they want you to live where you are representing the people. The one that Julia pointed out goes to being able to file. But this one goes to being a resident during the time that you represent that district, is the way I read it.
Okay, then I withdraw.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but
I understand what you're saying. It just was dumbfounding me that we had in there that you could, the day before the election,
See, if you scratch the whole thing and you're taking out the next sentence, which says, the candidate shall maintain a bona fide permanent residence in the district which he or she represents. And I would think all of us would want to live where we have been voted on to represent the people.
Dr. Cobb?
The last sentence of this that is underlined, provided that this section shall not apply to at-large district candidates, is that because they can also live within the districts and, okay, just making sure that was the reason. Okay, thank you.
They can
Ms. Coates?
As I'm rereading this again, I think maybe we're interpreting this incorrectly because it just says, for which he or she is a candidate immediately preceding the day of the general primary election. It doesn't say you only have to be there for one day before, right? It just says for the time period immediately preceding the day of the election is what it says.
By implication, it does. I guess it's corrected in that 34.
Yeah, 270 is for filing, so I,
You can file, but you can't move out.
but you can't, right, in 34 you can file, but 33 says that you cannot move out during that filing period either, or during the period of being a candidate either. So I actually think this is okay as I'm rereading it. Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Do I have a second? No more discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And we still have time before this is presented to rules if we want to discuss it further. 37B. Eligibility determination appeals to Cherokee's Nation Supreme Court. Looks like it's just mainly changing from tribunal to Supreme Court.
I move it be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's just 37B, correct?
B, C, and D.
B, C, and D. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. In section 38, we made a change to Cherokee Nation Supreme Court. Deleted 44E, anonymous contributions. 52B, anonymous campaign prohibited, and new B. Campaign
Move for approval of all of these.
Do I have a second? Have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
I'm fine, I'm amazing.
I have a second.
Okay.
Okay, now discussion, Mr. Garvin.
You didn't get a second? We got one?
Yes, we did.
I think we decided last time we didn't want anything on our signs, who paid for them. Kind of cluttered up the sign and that big campaign material. So I think we need to vote this down.
Vote. 52B,
Yes.
so you move to strike 52B.
The new B. 52 new B.
Is that an amendment? Is that a friendly amendment, or is that just a striking thing?
I
Or?
think he's just discussing right now.
We're just talking about, we need to exclude the signs.
I would agree with that.
Okay, any other discussion, Jordan?
Well, that was my concern. The first line of 52B new is all campaign material produced by a candidate or on behalf of a candidate or ballot issue shall have the name and address of the person or committee paying for said material. On those little signs, that's really hard to get all that information on there. And I don't know what extra that costs, but I think it costs something. I mean, instead of just putting your name and vote for me and what your election is, now you need to put the name and address of your committee on there as well. And I don't know, the signs I had was about the size of this book open, I guess. I don't know, how big would that have to be? Wouldn't be much room left for, here's trying to get name recognition there. So I would propose a friendly amendment that we leave off that first line.
The first
Line of,
sentence? Or
yeah, the first sentence, the first sentence of section 52, new B.
I second the motion.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Buck? Do you accept?
No, I accept I'm the spirit of what you're trying to say, but,
Going down and pass it around.
the campaign material, things you mail to people, things you hand out, I mean, the signs I'm in agreement with. And if you could come up with some language here to exclude the yard signs, then I'm fine with it. But I think if you're gonna send out flyers and mailers and those kind of things, it needs to say paid for by,
I approve this message.
yeah, I approve this message.
Okay, then what about this, if I may, except for yard signs or larger signs, and just add that to the end of the first sentence. That's an exception.
Is there a better word than yard signs? Is it?
Except for,
Signs? I just signs.
Campaign signs.
except for campaign signs.
That,
Or,
If we're still in discussion, I'd like to hear from the Baker brothers, if possible.
Gordon's still proposing.
She's
I would
proposing.
yield, and then come back and let me see if we can still come up with a
Okay,
friendly.
Ms. Watts has the floor now.
Well, I'm about to make a motion that's not up for debate, and I was thinking that we needed to table this motion. I think it needs to be considered, but I wasn't prepared, this is some of the new stuff, to consider it. I think there's a lot more work that needs to go into it.
We have a
So I'd
little
like
bit
to
more
table
discussion.
next month.
And I'll second that.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Are they trying to find out who is paying for it, or who is
No, putting names only for
figures on? You just don't want to put the videos you
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
You should wait till the cookies come around.
Kelly's got